Okay, good evening. Sorry for the delay. I want to talk today about being alive. Not being lively, even though being lively is part of it, but about being alive. Of course, when life is in the name of the parsha, Chaye Sarah, it makes you think about life. Ayiyu Chaye Sarah, the sum up of the pasuk of the life of Sarah. The life of Sarah encapsulated into one sentence. Vayiyu Chaye Sarah Meyas Shana Ve'esrim Shana Ve'sheva Shanim. And then the repetition again, Shnei Chaye Sarah. These were the years of Sarah. And so many Mefarshim, starting from Chazal, taking apart the pasuk word by word to try to appreciate the edifice, the greatness, the majesty of what was Sarah's life. But let me start with not with Sarah. I'll get back to Sarah. Let's start with Eliezer. Eliezer is another very mysterious character in this week's parsha. And there's something about him that I really want to clarify. This is the third time I've mentioned this in public in a day. You can tell how much it's been on my mind. This piece about Eliezer. And let's just start off by saying that Eliezer Eved Avram is a very, very, very confusing character. I don't know if you know this. There's the midrashim that they teach in Yeshiva Ketana, and the midrashim that they don't teach. And there's a reason. There's almost like a mesorah to what midrashim we teach children about each parsha. So I'm not saying it by way of criticism. But what happened to Eliezer Eved Avram after we stop hearing anything about him? So there's different midrashim about it. But the Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer says that Eliezer, the servant of Avram, went on to become Oig Melech HaBashan, the king that Moshe Rabbeinu killed because he was an incredible hater of Klal Yisrael. So you never heard that one. And some say that he was the father of Oig. There are some midrashim that Oig was his son. There's some midrashim that describe Avram Avinu freeing him as a servant. Certainly, we don't have the descendants of Eliezer Eved Avram that we know today carrying on the Messiah of Avram Avinu. That's for sure, right? Somewhere he disappeared in the sands of history. And that's interesting because he was not, I just want to explain to you that Eliezer Eved Avram was not your stam, like a really good servant, we live in the world of trying to find a good cleaning lady. And when someone has a good one, you have to protect it, My father tells me that in Europe, they used to daven, Lahedya, they used to daven in Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, that their cleaning ladies should stay healthy. And I hear it, Some of the most feisty arguments that I've had to deal with as a Rav are when people take someone else's cleaning lady. Watch out. Watch out for someone whose cleaning lady's been poached. Eliezer Eved Avram was not like this great servant, like he's just amazing with the kids, or, he's just a great, executive of Avram Avinu's estate. That's not what he was. Eliezer Eved Avram was a servant of Avram Avinu. It was called a Zakein in this week's parasha, Zakan Beisa. He was like a tzaddik, a Talmud Chacham. He walked around, in a long rabbinic jacket with a long beard, and Eliezer Eved Avram was a big Talmud Chacham. He was an incredible warrior, but he was a big Talmud Chacham. The Avram Avinu was telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he would like a son. And he said, all I have inheriting me is Damesek Eliezer. What's Damesek Eliezer? This I think we do teach. Damesek Eliezer, Rashi says that Damesek is Nutrikin Doile Umashke. that Eliezer was doile umashke mitayras rabbi la'acherim. Eliezer, like when you draw water from a well and then you give others to drink, that's doile umashke. And Eliezer knew how to draw from the well springs of Avram Avinu's Torah and teach it to other people. Does that sound like a great servant, or does that sound like one of the Gedolei Adar? Is there a Jew alive that could do what Eliezer Eved Avram did? No. That's amazing. That's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing Kedusha. Okay? In this week's parasha, it says about Eliezer that he was Moishel B'chol Asher Loi, that he dominated over everything that was Avram's. Avram gave him full control over his estate. I believe that the Medrashim say that he was Moishel B'yitzroi Kamoisoi, that he had the same control over his Yetzer Hara that Avram did. Can you imagine what that means? Eliezer had the same control over his Yetzer Hara as Avram did? I don't even know what to say. The servant of Avram, a descendant of Cham, of Canaan, it's an incredible thing to say. And he just basically vanishes after this. Never to be heard of again, unless it was to try to kill Klal Yisrael, if he was Oig. Chazal say in this week's parasha, as you know, that anyone here taught Chayesara? Anyone? So, if you taught Chayesara, you know that in Chayesara this story is repeated twice, because it says the whole story of Eliezer coming to find a wife for Yitzchak, and then Eliezer tells the whole story to Lavan and Bethuel. So the whole thing is repeated twice. So Chazal are very perturbed. There are entire Masechtas that are based on one letter or one extra word of the Torah, and here you just have another pasuk, just random, it seems, repetition. So Chazal say, Yafe sichasan shel avdei avos, yoser mitayrasan shel banim. That what sicha means? There's different ways to talk about talking. You could talk about amira, is saying, dibur is speaking, haggadah is like strong speaking, telling something over is haggadah, like magid by the seder. Sipur is like telling a story. Sipur Yitzias Mitzrayim. What's sicha? Sicha, right. Sicha is just like shmuzing. It's like light talk. So the sichason shel avdei avos, the light talk of the avdei avos, of the servants of the avos, is more beautiful than the Torah of the children. That's my Torah and your Torah. I was telling someone today, that's a little insulting. No? Are you a little insulted? No, you're only not insulted because you never thought of being insulted. But think about it for a second. Chazal say that the shmoozing of this guy who worked for Avram Avinu is better than a younger man sitting in front of a Gemara from morning till night, toiling his head off. That doesn't bother you a little tiny bit? That's, I don't know, to me, it's kind of infuriating. But that's what Chazal say. Well, we have to understand what that means. So, the explanation is, I'm going to keep it short, because I have an agenda that we have to get to in a short time. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm not going to get into the whole drasha behind it. I'm just going to tell you the answer. The answer is that Eliezer was an incredible vessel to hold the things that Avram Avinu needed from him. But he was not capable of contributing. In other words, Eliezer Eved Avram, in a certain sense, as being owned by Avram Avinu, he was like, in a certain sense, like an extension of Avram Avinu. But that doesn't mean nowadays we can understand it. Imagine, I keep on my phone, I keep a Google Drive on my phone. It has in it anything I ever typed about learning, I have in there. So if I'm stuck somewhere at night, in a hotel somewhere, in a community, because I'm there for a wedding, and someone will say, could you speak about the subject of, refuah on Shabbos, I could take my Google Drive, go to Torah, the file Torah, then go to Halacha, then go to Shabbos, and then go to refuah, and I can find my notes on refuah on Shabbos, and I can give a share. That's amazing. There's a little phone. I'm sorry for those of you on Zoom that I'm moving it around, but this little phone, there's a lot of information in there. So you should stand up when my phone walks into the room. And you should consider it my best Talmud. My Talmidim don't know as much of my Torah as my phone does. It knows more than any of my Talmud. Of course, that's ridiculous. It's an empty vessel that I filled, and it's there the way I filled it. It doesn't react. It doesn't ask me kashas. It doesn't help me to understand it. When Chazal said mi talmida yoser mekulan, it wasn't talking about my phone. It's just an empty vessel. And Avram Avinu was doing such an incredible work that he needed avadim, and they could hold and help Avram Avinu to do his mission as an extension of Avram Avinu. No, it's not insulting at all. It's not telling me something about Eliezer. In fact, it doesn't even say the name of Eliezer in it. It says Avdei Avos. There's a reason for that. Because it's not talking about Eliezer, it's talking about Avram. It's saying, do you know how incredible your grandfather Avram Avinu was? He was so incredible that his servant's schmoozing was more beloved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than a Rosh Hashiva's Sher Klali. That's some grandfather we have. You know, it's like if you would look at the moon and you say, wow, the moon is very bright. Like, no, the moon is not bright at all. The moon just reflects the light of the sun. So you look at the moon and you look how bright the moon is. Wow, could you imagine how bright the sun is? That's what it's saying. It's saying that the Eliezer was so great. We're not talking about Eliezer. And everything I told you, by the way, about Eliezer is the same thing. It says he was able to control his Yetzer like Avram Avinu. Yeah, because everything about Eliezer was like Avram Avinu. There's no sefer that you could buy about the Torah of Eliezer. What midah was Eliezer? What does he teach us? What's the lesson of Eliezer? Nothing. Eliezer is just whatever Avram wanted him to be. Right? That was what Eliezer was. Would you say the same thing about Yitzchak Avinu? Would you say that Yitzchak was just like whatever Avram wanted him to be? Would you say that about Yitzchak? No way. Avram Avinu had his midah. Yitzchak was a great student of his father, but Yitzchak had what he brought to the table. Yitzchak was very different than Avram Avinu. He had a different mission, a different personality, a different way of doing things. Yaakov, which one was he like? No, he learned from both of them. He kind of melded together and created a third thing, the Avodah of Yaakov, enormous stuff. Eliezer, do you know this, that Eliezer wanted his daughter to marry Yitzchak? Right? Eliezer wanted his daughter to marry Yitzchak. And Eliezer was a very big Talmud Chacham. No, that's doing a chashav v'shidduch, I think. So why did Avram say no? Do you know why? Why did Avram say no? Avram said to Eliezer, I hear what you're saying. You talk a very big Talmud Chacham. I'm sure that your daughter is very special. But my son is Baruch. He has bracha. And your daughter and you are Ur, you're cursed, because Chum was cursed, Canaan was cursed by Noach. Remember that? Baruch and Ur can't mix. That is what Avram told. It was Rashi in this week's parasha. Why not? Why can't, it's like a thing. Baruch and Ur can't mix. Why not? It's this point. Baruch means you're spilling over. Do you ever know people like that you gain from them? You just have this sense that you just have like take a cup and put it near them. They're just so full of life and they're just so alive and so special, so inspiring that you just want to be near them and you just like take it. That's Baruch. Ur is a vacuum. Okay, Avram Avinu could fill the vacuum with what he needs while he's the servant of Avram Avinu. Certain as he wasn't the servant of Avram Avinu anymore, don't even think about it. What happened to Eliezer? Avram Avinu had this effect on him. But this is very, very, very important because Avram didn't want his son to marry a daughter of someone who can't produce, can't give, can't have his own ideas, can't bring his own uniqueness to the table, can't have his own flavor. If you're just going to be blank, that's not good for the building of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael needs to be built by creative people that bring their own midas to the table. That's why Eliezer Eved Avram, Hashem told Avram, begged HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please, you should really have this question. This really, really, really should bother you. If you think that I'm just saying like a nice pshat or an interesting drasha, or I'm speaking because I have an agenda, I'm going to ask you this question. If you have another answer, I will stop the share. Okay? Okay, if you could answer me this, I'll stop the share. Is that a good challenge? Okay? Is there anyone thinking like, I was getting a little tired? Okay, here's my question. Avram Avinu is turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and saying, I need a son, because the person who's inheriting me is Damesek Eliezer, right? And what does Damesek Eliezer mean? It means that he draws and feeds people the Torah of his Rebbe. If you were trying to convince Hashem that Eliezer is a bad idea to be Yerush you, do you think that would be the appropriate time to give him the ultimate compliment? I'll give you an example. Let's say you're trying to convince someone not to hire someone. Okay? So let's say someone would show up. I don't want to take a person because I'm about to not compliment them. Okay? So let's say sitting here, or someone was sitting here, and we would say, should we hire her to be a principal in Yeshiva Katana? And I would say, do not hire her. She's super organized. She's an amazing mechaneches. She's wise. She's caring. She's approachable. Please do not hire her. Does that make sense? So why did Avram do that? Hashem, I don't want Eliezer. He draws from my Torah and feeds it to everybody. That sounds like, I think that's a good thing. So that maybe that means you do want him. No, that's why I don't want him. Can anyone explain that to me? What?
It's not his own.
That's my answer, so I don't have to stop the share, right? You say it's what I'm saying. It has to be that what I'm saying is true, right? There's no other option. It has to be that what I'm saying is true. The purpose that he was telling Hashem is that he doesn't have anything. Everything he teaches is what I taught him. I want a son that has his own stuff to teach, that it brings his own midas to the table, that has his own ruach, like if you run a camp, anything in a family, you don't need people that are redundant of each other. You don't need clones of each other. You want different people that bring different talents to the table, and that's what Avram was telling Hashem. Eliezer, okay, thank you very much. That's another me. That's not what I need in a son. In a son, I need the next step in the creation of Klal Yisrael. And contrast that void with Sarah. So Sarah, same is true for Avram Avinu, but the parsha starts describing the life of Sarah. Sarah, Vayiyu Chaye Sarah, and the life of Sarah was 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. The years of the life of Sarah, which is I don't have to tell you, that's very repetitive. You just started. I'll lose track from one pasuk to the next, but in one pasuk, I'm not going to lose track. You just started the pasuk that way. Shnei Chaye Sarah, those were the years of Sarah. Rashi says something there. But what the pasuk seems, what the pasuk seems to be saying is that Sarah filled every one of her years. Every one of her years was full. They were all her years. She owned all of them. A few weeks ago when I hurt my foot, so I hurt my foot on trying to remember on a Tuesday, I think, and By the next Monday, I was in excruciating pain. So Shabbos went okay. We were dealing with it. Sunday, I barely managed. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was down for the count. Okay, I was supposed to speak in Blue Ridge on Tuesday afternoon. Everything was gone. There was no shiur. Everything was gone. Thursday, I was back to myself a little bit, enough to be able to go to yeshiva. You ever had that feeling like, where did the week go? I was like getting ready for Shabbos, but I just did Shabbos. I wasn't Maver Sedra, the new Parsha. It was like a very weird feeling. Like I was going into Shabbos. It was just Matzah Shabbos to me. Because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the week didn't exist. It's a weird feeling. In a way, I think it would be accurate for me to say that wasn't my week. I don't own that week. That week flew by me. I didn't get a chance to live that week. I'm not complaining. I didn't get a chance to live that week. But sometimes people have that about weeks of their lives, months of their lives, years of their lives, that just like kind of slip by, bored, directionless, excitementless, just, going, from one thing to the next, not being in the moment, not being present, and I don't know if at the end of their life you could call it the life of this person, because really it wasn't their life. It was just the life that kind of passed by them. Are we communicating here? Okay, hear what I'm saying? But Sarah, the word Sarah means like a noble woman, like a sar. Sarah is like a noble woman. That's what the word means, like a queen. My Rosh Hashiva taught us that she was called a queen, not because she ruled over other people. That's why Esther Hamalka, 127 countries, 127 years of Sarah. Because Esther Hamalka ruled over 127 countries because Sarah ruled over 127 years. What does it mean to rule over your years? It means they're mine. I lived them. I could say Mishalim. I think you know what I mean, but I could say Mishalim. None of the Mishalim could really touch the point of it, which is almost difficult to put into words. But, like you have a few days of vacation, and you could come back feeling like, yeah, it was a vacation. Or you could come back feeling like, it was a vacation. It's just different. It was mine. We planned it. We did it. We lived it. We experienced it. Nowadays we took pictures of it. We will remember it. It was real. It was something. It was. And then sometimes it's just like, yeah, the summer passed. Now it's the year. What happened to the summer? It's gone. It's just a different way of living. I was thinking a lot about that over the past day or two, because I came in contact with different people. Because I was running around a lot the last day or two, and sometimes when you meet someone who's truly, truly alive, you know it. You could touch the fact that they're alive. One of the things that sucks the life out of us are these devices that we keep walking around with. They're just making us just like, I'll tell you two things that I experienced over the last week. We had in yeshiva this week, we took the guys on an overnight retreat to the Hilton in Stamford. Have you been there? Any of you been there? It's a very nice, very, very nice hotel. It's not, okay, let me put it this way. It was a very nice hotel 25 years ago. Now it's a pretty nice hotel. You know the type. It's like, it's nice, but it's nice. It's nice. It's a step up from what we've done in the past. It's nice. Many years ago, the Aguda convention was there, and there are things there. I spoke there a few years ago at a NCSY convention. In fact, I spoke in the same room that I spoke in last night. It was like a ballroom. All the Rabbeim got to speak in the base medrash that we set up, but the Gzeira was on me to speak during a meal. You ever try to do that? Just everyone's by their round tables and you're trying to speak. I knew I needed to get the guy's attention, so I said that it's hard to speak in a room like this, but not half as hard as it was the last time I spoke in that room. The last time I spoke in that room, I spoke by an NCSY Malava Malka, actually. NCSY Malava Malka. And I told the guys that it was a much harder job. And the one feedback I remember was that a bunch of girls walked over to me afterwards, thinking I was Benny Friedman, to thank me for my music. I don't know why they didn't realize I didn't come to sing, I came to speak. But that was basically... woo! It's a good thing I didn't sing. They wouldn't like Benny Friedman that much anymore. But...
You sold some CDs.
But I did some autographs, Benny, But anyway, so it got the guys quiet. I had their attention. But anyway, we did this retreat. I mean, think about it, if you would be interested in going to such a thing. They daven Shachris in the morning in Queens. They took a bus to a sports place, assuming you would like sports. Okay, big, huge place with tons of different options and everything. Then they were driven another half hour to the hotel, gourmet lunch. Then they opened the pool of the hotel and the workout areas of the hotel, and they just let the guys chill and walk around this massive hotel for a while with tons of nash out. Sounds good? Then we got together in a Beis Medrash, and we had an inspiring speech, like very inspiring speech, some of which one tiny piece of it I may quote if I have time. And then we sat and learned Bechabura, a Inyan of Machshava and Musar. We were debating all different groups. And then we had the Mashgiach summed up, something, which I'll share that with you in a minute. And then we went from there to supper, where I spoke about Benny Friedman. And then we went to a very, like a Shavuos night level Seder, like intense Seder. And then we had Joey Newcomb show up and have the guys singing, crying, dancing until midnight. That sound nice? And then the guys stayed in the hotel. I don't know what time they went to sleep. And then we had Shachris in the morning, which most of the guys attended. And then a panel, very interesting, two Rabbeim, discussing their thoughts about the Mamdani election in New York and how that affects from people. Amunah, Bitachon, things like that. That was the retreat. What is the cost of the retreat? 0. You don't have to pay a thing. Just come. Now, when we were young, is there a person in the world that would say, like, thank you, but no thanks? Can you imagine, like, I'm not in the mood? But nowadays, we actually have to speak to try to get them to go to this free night in a hotel with tons of food and an amazing time. The world wasn't like that years ago. Do you know why? Because of these phones. Because of technology. Because we're zombies today. Because people don't want to do anything. Okay, there was a Washington Post article a couple of years ago that said that all the bad things in the world, drug overdoses, murders, all these things, are going down. You know why? Not because the world became a safer, better place, but because no one's doing anything.
They're addicted to their phones.
Yeah, everyone is just there, and no one's doing anything. That was the first thing that made me realize, like, it's like sucking the life out of us. And then, the Rabbi Bamberger spoke to the boys, and he said this thing, like, I can't get it out of my head. It's almost embarrassing. How many of you are aware that there was a major robbery in Paris a short while ago? Yeah? No. Okay. In Paris... Okay. I wasn't expecting everyone to be very good. Maybe some people aren't attached to their technology.
How would I know?
What?
How would I know?
Because everyone... No, whatever. It's okay. It's okay.
If you go in the
How would you know?
supermarket, you look at the newspaper headlines as you're on your way out.
Mrs. Schmuckler gets the groceries delivered to the house. Who goes to a grocery anymore?
I do.
But then I get a newspaper.
You actually walk into the actual grocery?
I
Yes.
used to get a newspaper delivered.
That's like walking into Amazon. Why would you do that? Okay. What?
No chance I'll get the wrong groceries.
That's true.
Anyway, should I tell you what happened? Okay, there's a very, very old, the most famous museum and the most visited museum in the world called the Louvre. Okay, and it has in it the Mona Lisa. Have you heard of the Mona Lisa? Okay. And it has in it the crown jewels of France, like incredibly, like $100 million worth, maybe more of jewels, like crowns with jewels on them, or a scepter. I don't know exactly what is it, necklaces, whatever it was, you know. And it was 9:30 in the morning in this most visited museum, most famous security. Like this is like there's almost nothing as protected as those things. It's the most famous visited museum in the world. And a bunch of guys drove a truck up to next to the hotel, and it had a ladder on top of it, like I guess in the bed of the truck or something. They picked the ladder up to the second floor of the hotel. They climbed up, 9:30 in the morning. They climbed up. They took a glass cutting tool.
Museum, you mean, not the hotel.
The museum. I was in the hotel.
Right.
Museum. They took a glass cutting tool, 9:30 in the morning, to one of the most famous buildings in the world. They cut open a hole in the building, in the glass. They went in and they cut the cases or whatever they did. I don't know the details. And they took the stuff back down the ladder. They got onto motorbikes and they drove away. And the world was stunned. Like nobody could ever think of such a thing. Like if it happens in the middle of the night and there was a thing and someone had inside information or something. This was like 9:30 in the morning. It's like it's as if you'd say that like 9:30 in the morning someone walked into the Oval Office and stole the president's desk. Would you be surprised?
Yes.
That's how surprising it is, okay? So the Rabbi Bamberger was quoting one of the Rabbeim, who's a Rav, who was asking his Talmidim, how could it be, like, these guys are coming down from a second floor ladder with the jewels from a museum at 9:30 in the morning, and they get away with it. How could it be? Some of them were caught, maybe they didn't find any jewels, whatever it is. And the boys in the Shiur were like, 9:30 in the morning? Everyone's looking at their phones. You have to check your stocks. You have to see what happened overnight, which ball games were won. He says, everyone was walking around Paris. Of course, it was full of people walking around like this. And if you walk around, that's the way it was. Does that sound alive to you? Nobody was there. Nobody was there. Nobody. What?
They were on their phones also.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. But it really brings out to me, like, we have to remember to be present. Baruch Hashem, we have Shabbos. It like reminds us a little bit, like to, you know. And I know some people are really connected to social media and everything, and most of us are not. You know, we're not holding there. But even the little bit that we are, the texts, the return, the calls, the checking, the chats, even on the most small level, it's just like it kind of takes over in a way. I'm not even saying this because I think we should change it. I think even just being aware of it, just to realize like we should be alive. I feel more alive in this shiur than I did the last time I gave this shiur. Do you know why? Because I'm talking about it. And I'm realizing I am here. I have the incredible zchus to be giving a shiur to very special people. And that we've been doing for a long time. And it's special to be here. And like just to be here. I'm not in this. I am a little bit in this, but you know, you know, like, and sometimes, even without any technology, we spend so much time thinking about the other times. Do you know what I mean by that? We just we go through a day thinking about yesterday and worrying about tomorrow. And then tomorrow we go through thinking about yesterday and worrying about tomorrow. We spend so much time worrying about other times. I think about it now, like, maybe it's a little bit on my mind. And the December 3rd, I'm going to Eretz Yisrael for a week. Mrs. Feld, I may not make it that Wednesday night for this year. Yeah. We'll be in touch, I'm sure.
You might make it.
Okay? What?
You might have to
Oh, we have to talk about that. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I will.
get off.
But in any event, do you know, if any of you planned a trip to Eretz Yisrael and like the week or two before, you're in the airport, you're packing, what are you going to get there, what are you going to do, and you're just not here, you know? And then you go to Eretz Yisrael. I have to buy presents. I have to this, that. Who do I have to see? Who didn't I see yet? What do I have to, like? And then we're not there. We go to the I have to go to the kaisel, and then we go to the kaisel, but we're not there. And I think it's something for us to think about, learning how to live. We're not Eliezer Eved Avram. We have what to contribute. We're alive. And to live in Hashem's world. And to think about what Hashem wants us to do now, here. We are HaKadosh Baruch Hu's people. And we have a job to do. And to do it with all of ourselves, not with our attention divided and with our mind scattered, but to fully be engaged in whatever we do as a job, whatever we do at home, whatever we do in terms of interacting with friends, with family. You know, I noticed myself, I have to admit, you know, like I could be on the phone with a relative, with my brother or my father or something, and I'm listening and I'm talking to them, but I'm also looking at the computer, and I'm also checking something out, and I'm mouthing something to someone else, and I'm not fully in the conversation. I'm like, whoa, what did you say? What did you just say? Could you, whoa, 1 second, that sounded interesting. 1 second. Back up. What did you say? How many times do you do that? Like it's suddenly like, new job. What? You got a new job? What? Like suddenly, like it's like a key word. It's like you pick up, like, you know, because we were just on autopilot. I think it's important for us as Klal Yisrael, as human beings, but as Klal Yisrael, to stop being so on autopilot. I want to tell you something. It's just such an incredible thing. I know that you don't learn Gemara, and therefore this may sound funny to you, but I know that all of you are so close to the world of Torah that I think you'll appreciate this point, okay? I was listening to a shiur last night. I can't get this out of my head. Listening to a shiur last night. And this Rav, very, very, very special Rav, was speaking about some topic in Parshas Vayera, and he was applying it to the boys, and he started to talk about computers, and he said, we've been doing a lot of that in Yeshiva, which could be why it's so much on my mind. We've been talking about it a lot. And he said to the boys, this is a guy that, you know, he's probably been learning straight since he's 4. Like, incredible asmada, and such a tzaddik. And he says, you know, I never owned a computer in my life. And I probably would still not own a computer. Except that during COVID, we gave shiur on a computer, so my wife went out and bought me a computer. And I have a computer because I still have that computer. That's what he said. And then he starts thinking, like while he's speaking, when was COVID? How long ago was COVID? So he doesn't start counting back the years. He goes like this. Okay, I saw this with my own eyes, and this was not a thought-out thing. This was not prepared. He wasn't reading from a paper. He's like, when was COVID? Yavamis, Beya, Psachim, Kedushin, Bava Kama, Shabbos. It was 6 years ago, like the 6th. That's it. What did you just do? Didn't understand what just happened. We taught different Masechtas each year. And it's not like it's a set thing that he like uses it as a way to count years. The Rosh Hashiva picks each year which Masechta to learn. But this guy, when we're learning a Masechta, that's life for that year. That's what he breathes that year. So when he's thinking back, imagine a guy builds towers, okay? And he has tower 6, tower 5, tower 4, tower 3, tower 1, 2, 1. And you say, when was COVID? And he's like, 1 second, I was building tower 2 then, so, right? That's what he would think. Because that's his life. That's the way he that's the way he counts years. You know, someone who's in medical school, they'll count like that. Someone who moved 50 times, if you know that feeling, will be like, 1 second, we were in Philadelphia, we were, you know, like that, you know, and then, you know, you count, right? You count like that. This Talmud Chacham, he doesn't count based on anything in this world. He counts based on what he was learning. Yavamas, I was blown, and the Rosh Hashiva was there at the time, and I he was looking at me like it was just like a breathtaking thing to see. Like the person who said it didn't notice what he was doing. This was not a show. This was not like now and Pesach Krohn wrote the story. Like it was completely without thinking. This is how he thinks about how many years ago it was. It's really how he thinks. To me, it's about when I'm learning Yavamis. Again, I know that you don't learn Gemara, but the point is the same. When I'm learning Yavamis, my life right now is Yavamis. And when I'm teaching Torah, my life right now is what I'm teaching. And when I'm raising my children, my life, my focus, my joy, my attention is on what I'm doing. And when I'm davening, my life, my focus, I am having a conversation with Hashem. And so on and so on. And I'm here, and I'm connected, and I'm doing it. I'm real. I'm focused. I'm cutting out all the static. And I think that it's something for, I think years ago we talked about this more. I don't know why I stopped talking about it so much, but it's been a very, very long time. And since then, things have gotten so much worse since those days that we used to talk about this more often. And I think that it's something for us to work to the point that it's Wednesday evening, tonight. I think we should try. I think we can make a commitment. There are enough of us between the people on Zoom and the people listening to the shiur here. Thank you for coming. And the people that will hear the recordings, you could ask Mrs. Feld. I don't know what the numbers are for that. I think we're a strong chabura of people. We're a strong group of people. And I think we can make a commitment to try, even just for a few days, maybe through Shabbos, to try to be present in what we're doing. Shnei Chaye Sarah, to own our years, to own our days, to live our days intentionally and in a focused way. We sit down by a Shabbos meal, to sit by the Suda. You know, so often the relationships that we have, we think about them when they're not there. And I don't even mean to be morbid and talking about when people are nifter, but you know, those of you that have sent children away to Eretz Yisrael, this and that, away to yeshiva, you know the feeling, when the child is there, okay. And then it's like, you're leaving already? And then you miss them and miss them and miss them and miss them. Right, that's how it goes, right? And then they come back, and then isn't it true that sometimes when they leave again, you feel like, 1 second, they were barely here. And some of it is because they were barely here. But some of it is because we were thinking about this, and we were busy with that, and we were distracted because of this, and we were overwhelmed because of that. And if we could just learn how to focus in, and this is not a self-help share. This is a very ruchniistic thing. Because if we believe that we were sent by Hashem, and that we have a job to do, so then we have to focus in and laser focus on what we're here to do. We're here in this share right now, and we're talking about this topic. Laser focused, we're talking about this. We're going to go home. Each of us is going to go home tonight to a different home and a different situation and different sets of responsibilities and different challenges and different opportunities. But let's all make this commitment, this pact, to go home, and that Wednesday night of Parshas Chayei Sarah, Tafshin Pei Vav, will be a unique Wednesday night, that we never had one like it, because it was never Wednesday night of Parshas Chayei Sarah, Tafshin Pei Vav, and it will never happen again. And every second is like that. It's a second that we are being given that we will never have again. And you know something? What I'm saying is hard work, but doesn't it make you smile? Isn't it nice to live like that? Isn't that really a lot? Don't we have this inner want to be fully alive? Don't we want to be dancing? Don't we want to feel the music? You know what I mean? Whether the music is on or not. But don't we want to feel the vibration of the music in our life? Don't we want to be really engaged? Really present? I noticed that I'll give you a mashal of what I want to say, but I think this is very, very relevant, and I'll end the share with this. This morning, we stayed in the hotel last night, and this morning, I was getting ready to leave the hotel, and this is my perk, I was already in Connecticut, and to head home. So it was around 10:30, 10:45, and I went upstairs to my hotel room, and I packed up whatever little stuff I had left over there. And then I knew that the whole trip back to Waterbury, I was going to do what I always do when I'm in the car, which is to take care of phone calls. I like to do that while I'm in the car because it's private and because it's a way to get things done. So when I'm at home, I can focus on other things. So when I was in the room already, I was thinking to myself, I'm going to put my headpiece in and I'm going to start talking now. Like, why waste a good 5 minutes or 10 minutes while I'm trying to get out of the hotel? I could be halfway through a phone call by the time I get to my car. And yes, I know it's pathetic, but I think like that. Okay? So I put the thing in my ear, and I'm like, 1 second. Think about this. I'm a Rebbe there. I'm going to be walking out of the hotel. If I'm on the phone, what if there's a boy that's walking down, and I have an opportunity to look him in the eye and to smile and say, thanks so much for coming. I'll see you tomorrow. But if I'm on the phone, I'm not going to do that, right? Maybe I'll wave, maybe I'll notice, maybe I won't notice. And I think my job, as long as I'm here, is to be a Rebbe here, and not to be at Waterbury. When I get to Waterbury, my job is to be in Waterbury. Imagine I came to the Shiur, and I had one thing in my ear, and I was like, that's what I think you should do. No, I wasn't talking to you about Eliezer. I was telling the Shiur about that. Okay, hang on a second. So that's the pshat with Eliezer. No, I'm not talking to you. Now, obviously, that would be very, very distracting, but let's be honest. Don't we do that all the time in a certain sense? Whether it's with our focus or it's with the phone or whatever it is, don't we do that? And I was afraid of that, and I didn't even know I was going to speak about this tonight, but I was afraid that I was going to walk out of the hotel. Who knows how many people I could have missed. And I actually ended up going down the elevator with a boy that I didn't know so well, and I schmoozed with him for a few minutes, an elevator schmooze, Hey, you had a good time? Oh, yeah, good, yeah, whatever. But if I would have been on the phone, not. And I think that when we get home tonight, and when we're doing what we do on a Thursday, and when we're doing what we do on a Friday, and when we do what we do on a Friday night, I think if we work on ourselves, this new powerful initiative that we have for the next few days, to be fully here, we will notice the people around us in ways that we don't usually notice. I'm happy, not for you, I'm happy for you, but I'm happy for the people that you live with, because they're going to get complimented over the next few days in ways that they wouldn't have. They're going to get appreciated. If they're not in a good mood, they're going to be noticed in ways that they wouldn't have been noticed. Because if we're here and we're present, we're fully alive in the moment, who knows how much good we could do in that moment. So let's try to learn from our great, special grandmother, Sarah Imenu, that the Pasuk itself testifies about her. That Sarah lived 127 years, and they were all the years of Sarah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as many years as HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us on this world, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us this chus, that all of our years should be ours. Yashikayach.
Thank you.